Hi. I did it again. Oh, I like this. I need to open my curtains more often. Usually I don't. Hi, happy solstice. Let me see here. This is Anna Imagination with Philosophical Coffee. And just a minute. Do you need a moment? I'm here with my daughter. We just opened stockings. And is it the cat? I'm not used to this weight load bearing. All right, I think I like that better. That feels a lot less like I've got a wrecking ball on my head. It really felt like I had a wrecking ball there. That feels a lot better. So I've done a culture cleanse this year, and it's been really like, whoa. And I wanted to really reflect on that because I do tech cleanses. I've been doing tech cleanses for a long time. I haven't done a tech cleanse in 3 years. A tech cleanse is when you shut everything off, including the phone, and you walk away for like a weekend. And that's what I did with my camping trips. I would do 3 camping trips a year. And when I would do a camping trip, it would be, one of the rules was tech cleanse. No one was allowed to do any kind of tech at all. So, and it was a wonderful way to connect with nature, connect with people, connect. And that's really, really the focus of today's day, like connection. And due to the cultural cleanse that I'm on right now, that includes Christmas, Thanksgiving, all holidays. And I've been doing it since my birthday, since May. And it was a real, looking back, it's only been, since May that I've started the culture cleanse. And one of the things that I'm really, really pausing in life during one of these cleanses is to really step back and ask a couple questions. The first one is, what does this mean? Why are we doing it? The other thing that I really dove deep into was, did I want to do it? Did I miss it? And yes, on my birthdays, I miss my birthday. But, and of course, with Halloween, that was a huge, I'm huge with Halloween. I'm huge with Samhain. Thanksgiving, did not miss it. There was nothing I desired about Thanksgiving. Now, there's my agenda, and then there's my children. And the way I've been wording this with my children is, yeah, I'm kind of on a spiritual journey this year, and they're not. They didn't choose this. So it's kind of like hence the hat, I'm sitting there talking about doing a cultural cleanse, and there's the Santa's hat from 1950s Coca-Cola on my head. And this is what my daughter gave me for Christmas. It was hilarious. I opened it up and there was a little label inside, wear it. And it's like, I was going to, and I'm like, it's solstice. Of course I'm going to put on a hat. But it was this integration where she's doing her thing, celebrating, and I'm sitting here on my end going, I need to do my culture cleanse. But Thanksgiving was wonderful. And I'm a vegetarian, so of course there's no turkey. And there was a whole debate of, does she want a turkey? And I'm like, I love you. You are allowed to get a turkey. You are allowed to cook a turkey. I will not be eating the turkey. I will not be cooking the turkey. If you want to do this endeavor on your own, and she did not. But what we did was, it was unplanned. It was like a last minute, let's throw it together. And what resulted was this very low key, no stress. We just made dinner. But the dinner was your classics, like corn, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce. And it was like, wow, this is like no stress, which was huge. And I noticed that was really a big thing of it, as I noticed how much stress that, because I had an expectation, and this is it really is, here's the expectation and here's the stress. And it's like interesting, the higher you make your expectations, the higher your stress is going to be, because you're setting to achieve those expectations. It's like Thanksgiving is the Olympics for cooking dinner. And then, no, that's not good enough. No. Now you got to do Christmas. Now you got to do like the Olympics for holidays. And then you've got New Year's. And it's this year I was just like, no. And it got to be last night. Now, my solstice, I do the solstice. So for me, it's the 21st. And all I did this year for the solstice was happy solstice to two people. Two people. That's it. For me, it was very much a let us take this time to reflect with the energy and the universe. That's what it was for me. And that's exactly what I did. And then Christmas, December 24th rolls around, and I sent out love to my partner. And my daughter got the Christmas decorations out, and she put some stuff up, and she did it a little bit like, am I going to get backlash? And I'm like, but the decorations. So I got Christmas lights. I've got stockings. I've got stuff all over, no tree. And it's, again, been very, very low key, very, very toned down. So we have all of this happening. And she was very stressed yesterday. She went out and she did a little bit of shopping. And after that, she came back and she was in a much better mood. And I had a whole, we're going to talk about your identity and how much your identity needs to be maintained and managed. Your job is to make sure your identity gets what it wants. And that's it. And the more you give your identity what it wants, the happier we are. Real easy, right? But that's truly it. The more you give your identity what it wants, the happier we are. And I told her, look, you really need to stop ignoring your identity. You really need to start speaking up for her. You really need to start going to bat for her. You really need to start really give your identity some attention, because you are mean when your identity is not happy. And this girl has got to be defined. So it was hilarious because I'm not doing the cultural thing, and I made it clear, and she still did her own thing. And I saw her stuffing stockings last night, and I went to, she went to bed, and she's like, Mom, make sure you wake me up before you go to sleep. And I'm like, all right. And I know what she's doing. And I'm like, all right, it's fine. So she goes to bed, and I grab a couple things. I put them in her stocking. And then I go to bed, and I'm like, Lizzie, I'm going to sleep now. And she's like, oh, and it was hilarious. She takes my big red bathrobe, puts it on. She puts on a Christmas hat, and she looks like Santa. Now, this is the beautiful thing. She's a 16-year-old girl, and she gets to play Santa. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if I had not done this culture cleanse, this would not have happened. So this is like, I'm getting, so I got to act like I was 5. And she was the one doing Christmas, and she's walking around all that night last night. Ho, ho, ho. It was annoying. She would have this jingly bracelet. Oh my God, it was so fucking annoying. And every time it jingled, I'd hear ho, ho, ho. And it's like, oh my God. And then I'm sitting there trying to sleep, and she's like, ho, ho, ho. And she's like, it really reminded me of a really incompetent parent who could not do the discreet Santa thing well. That's what it reminded me of. And I said, you fail the Santa test. You're not supposed to let on that you're Santa. It was hilarious. We ended up giggling our butts off. And then she gets into bed afterwards, and she's like, I hope there were 2 Santas. And it was just so sweet. And this morning, I was thinking about the Grinch. When the Grinch steals Christmas, and there's this ball of glowing light, and they're all singing, and they're talking about the spirit of Christmas. And look at that Christmas came. It came without boxes or ribbons or bags. It came without boxes. It came without tags. I was there this morning, and I'm like, interesting. Christmas came anyway. And I sat back, and I did this massive, what is gifting? I already know I already know this shit, because this is Triadic healing. But then I really paused and went, oh my God, the spirit of Christmas is just the emotional exchange and the emotional transactions that is gifting. So I wrote my daughter a letter. Now, my daughter, every year for Christmas, every fucking year, since she was 3, had a thing where she would draw pictures for everybody every fucking year, no matter what. And she would draw pictures and write cards. And every year we would have the gifts and then we would have Elizabeth stuff. And I loved it. It was actually my favorite part of Christmas was Elizabeth's stuff. And almost every year, no one ever got her anything. I mean, she got presents, but no one ever made her anything. And I remember one year she just broke down crying. And it got to a point where we all had our own stockings and she had Elizabeth stockings. Like these were envelopes, almost like when you're in kindergarten and you have Valentine's Day manila envelopes and you have to go around with Valentines and it was like that. And she cried because no one had gotten her anything. And this was like 10 years ago. No, it was like 6 years ago. I was at the peak. I'm not going to make excuses for myself. I did not get her anything because I did not realize how important it was. And here it is. And she is still doing these things. And I realized that she had something figured out that I just now figured out, that she has been tapped into the spirit of Christmas, which really is just the emotional gift exchange. Let me explain what this is. Human connection only happens in one circumstance. Of all the psychology and all the philosophy and all the physics I have studied, human connection only occurs one time: when we give. No other time. You must give to connect. There is no exception to this rule. Takers have not figured this out. Takers, desperate to connect, will steal, will rape, will take. It's extraordinary. The only time you can connect with a human being is if you give. What you are really doing when you give is you are gifting them with your vulnerability. And they have the ability, while you are vulnerable and on your knees, metaphorically or literally, they can reject you, ignore you, or accept you. What you have really given them is your vulnerability and consent. That is what you have given them. Now, if they accept, then they experience the emotion receiving. And there is a choice for them. They can then give gratitude. And you get both the emotion of receiving with gratitude. We don't realize this, that when you accept gratitude, what you are really accepting is the emotion receiving with the emotion of gratitude. And the first exchange is the feeling of giving and vulnerability, while the receiver receives the emotion receiving and consent and power. And then they give the emotion gratitude and receiving, to which we say, you are welcome to connect with me again, which is what your welcome means, in which you give invitation and an open door. Now you have connection. And that is the transaction. It is giving vulnerability, receiving consent and power, giving gratitude and receiving, and giving invitation and an open door. And that is the cycle of giving. It is absolutely beautiful. When you have this 4-part exchange happening, you officially have the spirit of Christmas. Now, my most prized possession in my life are my words and my ideas. I have nothing more valuable to give. That is, like, of everything in the world, when I am done with someone, I reach a point where I say no words. Like, that's what they get cut off from me, is they are denied my words. I only give my words and my ideas to people who value them. And so for her, I wrote her a letter. This is my artwork. This is my art form. This is my imagination, my creation. I literally have nothing more valuable ever to give. It's priceless. Likewise, hers is art. For her, it is her drawing, her paintings. She hates drawing. It is her paintings. And that is absolutely, there is nothing greater for her to give but her paintings, her imagination, her creation. And it's something every now and then I did do with my children where, because I valued the concept of gifting, and I hate gifts because I was raised with narcissists who used gifts as a debt, indentured servitude. Gifts very much for me were forms of indentured servitude. So I had that association in my head for a very long time. And I did not want my children to associate Christmas or giving with material possession, because there's a whole lot of spiritual shit happening here that so many people overlook. And to bypass that, the only way to really conceive this is to have this knowledge and understand it. And the beautiful thing is we have an entire religion. Gross. We have an entire holiday that revolves around this concept, but it's going way over our heads. And that's the problem. And it is absolutely, and it's funny because I know so many Christians personally who claimed Christmas as their own, and it was very much a, no, you can't have it. This is mine. It's not yours. I know Christians who are like that, which defeats the entire purpose of this. And I grew up hearing that if you are not a Christian, you should not be celebrating anything in this holiday. And that's the whole point, is this concept of the emotional transaction, the spirit of giving, the energy of giving and receiving that emotional transaction is only achieved through these transactions. And we have an entire holiday that's thousands of years old, like thousands of years old, that revolves around this concept. And which is why the solstice. And what amuses me, what interests me is Thanksgiving. Let's go back pre-Columbus, that asshole. Let's go back before that. Instead, it was about being grateful, gratitude. So in November, we have a holiday that focuses on gratitude. And then in Christmas, in the solstice in December, we have a holiday that focuses on the emotional transaction of giving and receiving. And it was absolutely fascinating to see this gratitude, giving, receiving. And it's funny because gratitude is very much a branch of this whole thing. It is like step 3 of the spirit, of the energy here. And giving is step 1, and receiving is step 2. It's absolutely, and it's funny because there's no "you're welcome." You could say that New Year's is very much, New Year's is the "you're welcome." That's what New Year's is. New Year's is "you're welcome." And so you could almost see, let me think about that. Odlen san, may all traditions be forgot, and they're brought to mind. I'm still trying to figure out what Auld Lang Syne means. It really, there's so much in it that I'm just like, what does that mean? Mind you, the song is like 1,000 years old, so I'm trying to translate something from 1,000 years ago. My daughter wrote, Halloween is when you can give away candy without receiving anything. But I know the history of Samhain. Samhain started because of All Saints Day. No, wait. No, it was. All Saints Day came after Halloween. The Christians were superstitious, so they created a holiday to appease the devil, to appease the demons. So they don't celebrate, but they basically give sacrifice to the devil, to the demons, to say, here, don't hurt us. And then they forgot that they made the holiday. That's my favorite part of the story. They forgot that they made the holiday. So they created All Saints Day to counter the satanic worship of Halloween. So they created All Saints Day to balance. That's so funny. And I'm New Year's. Would New Year's be about? You know what? It's almost, yeah, because New Year's is about opening doors. It's really interesting. New Year's, in fact, Janus, the god Janus, is where January comes from. It is the god of two doors. And he has two faces, old and new. And it's looking into the past while looking onto the future. And this is where we get January. It's the celebration of Janus, opening doors. And you could almost say that New Year's very much is the last stage of the gratitude cycle. So truly, from Thanksgiving, it's out of order, but from Thanksgiving to New Year's, it is literally a massive reflection of, we're going to take 3 months and just reflect on the entire energy cycle of gratitude, of this giving exchange, of human connection. And I've heard so many people say, if only we could make this last the whole year round. Well, here's how to do that. You have to understand what it is you're really doing, which is you are tapping into the emotional transaction of the 4-part giving cycle, the giving, gratitude, receiving, invitation, human connection cycle. This would be called the human connection cycle. And to do this, basically, it would be being mindful. Knowing this, first of all, you would need the knowledge. Here you go. This is this YouTube video. You would have the knowledge. And then from the knowledge, you would have the mindfulness. You know, and I've written my children many, many letters. And I remember when I would get a letter from my mom, to be blunt, the most precious things that I ever received from my mother were her letters. That was something, my mom wrote me many letters, especially when I was a teenager. And that to me was the most valuable things I ever got in my life, were her letters. They were so valuable to me. And my mother is a silent writer. I remember watching her when I was a child. She'd be writing these journals and she would always like cover them up and hide them. And she kept pages and pages. I had no idea what she wrote. I don't know if it was her diary or her journal. I don't know if it was fiction. Fiction. I'm beginning to think there is no such thing as fiction anymore. And to get a letter from my mother was like, for me, that was like unwrapping a Christmas. But we're back to, I value words. They, to me, are one of the most valuable things that a person can give you. And I would say I would have to start with knowledge and then mindfulness. And then it would end in January. January is really when it closes and it has that last one. So then the next one would be giving, part 1 again, part 2. You could almost set it up so it's literally back to back to back on a 4-part cycle, 3 times a year, 4-part cycle. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. So 3 times a year, you would go through the 4 parts. And we already have one all set up between November, December, January. So then it would be February, March, and April. I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to do this. May, June, July, and then August, September, October. And we're back to November, December, January. I'm going to do this. This is going to be my experiment this year. I'm going to do this. Oh, yeah. I'm going to do this year. Oh, yeah. This is it. I want to trial this. So this is what it's going to be, is I'm going to have then it would be, I'm going to plan this out. Oh, I'm going to do this. This excites me. This gives me joy. I have happiness in me. And where did we leave off? So we have gratitude. Well, the gratitude and the receiving are exchanged hand in hand. So that would be in the middle. So that would be the gratitude. No, it's not the gratitude. It's the gift receive. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. It would be the gift receive. Well, yeah, I see it better. Okay. So gratitude. Let's start with the gratitude. That way it coincides with November. And then it would be the gift, the receive. And then it would be the open door. There. So in February, ibuprofen, baby. 2. She has a fever. So gratitude would be February, May, August, November. Gratitude. Focusing on the gratitude. And then gift receiving would be March, June, September, December. And then open door for the connection would be April, July, October, January. And yeah, and that's where we would celebrate Janus. And it's the energy that we're capturing. And once you identify that it's the energy, it's not the items or the things or the possessions, it's the energy that you're actually capturing. It's the ability to like draw it in. You know, it's amazing to me watching how people have known this instinctively and the energy is there. But there's been a disconnect of we're going to go through these traditions and these habits. So we develop an association of an emotional and an energy. Oh, this is totally Christmas. This is making sense now. Here I am psychoanalyzing Christmas. That's me. All right. So what it is you have the habit, the tradition, and this is what tradition is it is the emotional energy that we have associated with the holiday too. And you have ibuprofen there, right? Is that aspirin? Aspirin is 1. This is vital. Let me see what you have got. Just a minute. I got to be a mother. Let me see what you've got. Okay. 1 of those. You can't buy it should be by the coffee pot. Yeah. 1 of those. I didn't realize we had those. And then 2 ibuprofen. Actually, do you have a headache? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're fine with the aspirin then. All right. So it's habitual tradition, emotional energy. And then from there down, it's we have the association, but it's been this thing where we don't talk about the emotional energy. We don't talk about the spirit that comes with it. We've been focused on the habit, the tradition, the rituals of Christmas or Halloween or whatever it is, ignoring or not paying attention to, not being mindful of the energy until now. So once you realize that it's the emotions and the energy, and we do this with words very much are linked to. We have word association. And this is what I like to call emotional or energy association. And this is how words work. You have emotional and word energy attached, or emotional association attached with words. And that's correct. And that is exactly what we get with our words. But we also get them with our traditions and our habits on a whole nother level, which is why this time of the year, that's what we get. And once you start to separate the habit and the tradition and start acknowledging that it's actually the words or the emotions and the energy that you're seeking, that we're indulging in, now you have a lot more give and take over it. You have a lot more. This is where the idea of Christmas in July comes from. So, yeah, it's really... It's beautiful how for thousands of years we've captured this without realizing the energy was present. Now, I think they knew that the energy was present, and I think they forgot. And it's going full cycle again, where it's going full circle again. The world is quiet today. like COVID quiet, and I love it so much. No, there's no noise. It's the seismic waves. When humans are still, it calms the planet. It's the peace on earth. This is what a lot of people would imagine world peace would look like. You know, I've interviewed so many people this year. What does world peace look like to you? And not one person said Christmas. Not one person said Christmas. But this is what it feels like and would look like for me. That we are calm and we are so still that the seismic activity on the planet calms. We're with family today now, aren't we? We are with kin. How many of us are fighting? We are with family and we are with kin. Oh my God, I'm going to just wallow in the quiet and calm. I get this once a year and I'm like, yes, the calm. The energy is just peace on earth. We can do it. We do it every year. We did it during COVID, except with COVID, it was the government telling us we had to do it. And it's like, no, consent. And I remember watching the physics. There were so many reports released around that time, especially by the time March, April, May rolled around. The data that rolled in, oh my God, the physics departments were blowing up. This is when the animals felt it, and the animals started to come out and they started to move their way and migrate back into the cities because they could feel the seismic waves had settled. And as the seismic waves settle, basically human movement, our cars, our activity, all of our activity of going to a 9 to 5, the rat race, creates vibration activity on the planet Earth. And this increases the seismic waves. This is why, and the only time every year that the seismic waves gets low enough is Christmas Day. There is no other day in the entire world where it is this low, which is that impenetrable peace that we all feel on Christmas Day. It's because humans aren't moving. And we're also taking part in the human connection gift exchange of gifting and receiving with gratitude and open doors and human connection. Isn't this fascinating? And during COVID, I said, and I still say this, that the reason why I was able to reset during COVID was because the planet was finally quiet enough for me to think. And oh my God, it is. It's like this is the only day of the year where I can really think and hear. And during COVID, they came back and they were like, so everyone has settled down so much. And everyone started playing board games together because what else was there to do? And it was by late March and April that people really started to bond together, some of us. And that's where a lot of COVID divorces happened. That's where people started to go, no, this isn't right. And there was that massive shift where people started to, by forced coming together during COVID, we all went, oh, this is shit. But the seismic activity for 3 months was down to Christmas levels. Same thing with the planes in the sky during 9/11. After 9/11, there was no air traffic. No air traffic. And it was so quiet. It was just so quiet. There's no helicopters today. There's no horns honking. There's no screaming. There's no anger or frustration. Traffic really is anti-energy. It really is. This is the first Christmas where I've experienced full alignment with the universe. Full alignment and balance. And boy, am I zen. And I'm going, yes, wallow in that universe. Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. You don't believe in the energy? Look at Christmas Day. No matter what you believe, you can feel this calm. And it is literally the calm of 8 billion people shutting up and sitting down. And several of us, many of us, indulging in human connection. Really think about that. Really think about it. The psychology of Christmas, the psychology of solstice. I did not do, and I don't do, I never do the rat race of Christmas shopping. When I did celebrate Christmas regularly, I had a rule that my Christmas shopping had to be done by Black Friday. And that way I could enjoy the holiday season. And I did. Oh my God, did I? When I'm back into living the culture proper, that is what I will do. Is I will indulge on that. I'm going to breathe with me. Just I was writing most of the day yesterday, like fictional writing. I'm really beginning to think that word isn't real. And it's the first time in a very long time that I was able to write. Like, write. And I had no intention of ever going back to writing again. And I think the universe put me through hell to get me to that breaking point. I know she did. The only reason why I ever picked up pen in 2006 was because I was in so much emotional duress from my mental illness that I finally picked up pen and wrote. And I went, well, I'm kind of good. And then I kept writing. And the pain, being able to siphon the pain, was so much of a relief that I wrote like 250,000 words. And then I wrote 90,000 words. And then, but in 2015, I stopped because my therapist told me that imagination was the problem. Such a fucking load of bullshit. And I became afraid of my own imagination. And I just had no intention of really going back into the writing creative world. It wasn't until the pain yesterday finally got to a point where I was in so much emotional pain. Not emotional pain. Yeah, emotional pain. That I finally said, fuck it, and I picked up pen again and I wrote. And it was this massive, oh. And it really feels like she caused a lot of the activity for the last 2 years just to get me to this point where I would break and write again. And I know, had any of the events not happened, I would never write. I was not going to return to writing. I had made it clear that my writing days were done. And I can hear her going, huh, you're not going to write? I'm going to make you hurt. And she did. And I finally broke and I went, all right, I'm writing again. And it snapped. It changed something in my mind. I wrote a letter to my partner, and it was more of a poem, more of a song. And it was finally all the words that I had been trying to say. It feels like we're 4 years old and best friends and ancient together all at once. I feel like I've known him for thousands and thousands of years. And it feels like we're 4 years old and best friends. And that is what it feels like with him. I was finally able to articulate all of these worlds. And I said to him, it feels like this way with you all the time. It always has. And I can't explain the why. It just feels like this way with you. Maybe it's the amount of pain we've been through together. I don't know. But it finally reached a point where I was able to say those words and it snapped something in my brain. And then I was able to just sit down and I wrote 6 chapters of my new book. And I posted them. My God, do I love them. It's like, wow, I am definitely back. And it was this my God, it was just this realization of how important art was. And then here I am this morning writing a letter to my daughter, and my daughter's sending me her artwork. And I'm looking at Triadic healing, and there's 2 parts to it. There's part 2. Well, it's not part 2. I have Triadic healing, but it only works if a person has an imagination. If you don't have an imagination, it's not going to work. If you are so deep inside the box, it's not going to work. And I am trying to figure out how to, and I did. I broke it down, but I realized the biggest problem with people who are caught inside the box they have a problem with fear. They have a problem with regulation. They have a problem with concrete thinking. It has to be literal. Ugh, God, that's going to be really hard for me. I only think in abstract. It has to be literal. And they have a problem with trust. Those are their top 3 things. Emotional regulation, fear, and trust. And their literal thinking. Oh my God, the literal thinking is going to be a pain in the ass. So this is the difference. If you are an abstract thinker and you watch a movie, you'll have the ability, Cloud Atlas is a fantastic example of this. A concrete thinker will watch Cloud Atlas and go, wow, what a great story. The end. An abstract thinker will see the metaphor, see the meaning behind it, pick up on the clues and go, oh, I get you. Same thing with Matrix. With concrete thinkers, they went, wow, what a cool movie. The CGI was awesome. The end. The abstract thinker will go, we're inside the Matrix. So Triadic healing is for abstract thinkers. And the big difference between an abstract thinker and a literal concrete thinker is imagination. Imagination is the ingredient that gets a person into abstract thinking so that they can see the clues. And this is my biggest, you take the Bible and you've got abstract thinkers who are looking at the Bible metaphorically going, oh, I get you, right. But then you've got the concrete thinkers going, well, they take it all literally. And it comes down to imagination. So the question that's been posed is, can I make Triadic healing for concrete thinkers? And I think what they really need to focus on is emotional regulation, fear, and trust. It's going to have to literally read like a kindergarten textbook, because that's the mindset of concrete thinking is kindergarten. We're talking when do we start thinking abstract? When does the average person start thinking abstract? I want to say 10 years old. How do you communicate with those people? So this is my current pickle, is me trying to figure out how to take Triadic healing and convert it into concrete thinking. Because the very first thing I teach is we're stories. We're stories. And if you have really poor or low story health, you're not going to see it. If you are not imaginative, you're not going to see how much of a story we are. I wrote something last night that broke down all the mental illnesses into what type of story abuse you've suffered. It was extraordinary. When I was done with it, I went, oh, look at that. Every mental illness is how your story was abused and how you're trying to cope with getting your story back, if you believe you can get your story back. So I'm thinking, I can't stop working. It's my joy. Why would I? That's really it, is my work is my joy. So here I am on the 25th going, yes, let's get to work. I see life as a big story, this vast story. And like truly, I see it so much as a story. And it's just this realization that I will read this to you. I want to know and experience every type of love with you. I had wished once and received it. I did. The 2 years that followed did, in fact, put us through every type of love the universe had to offer. But my most favorite was and still is wisdom love. Sometimes I feel like I'm 4 years old with you, and sometimes it feels like we're best friends. Sometimes it feels like we were ancient together once, and I was holding your hand as we ran around on so many adventures. And I love to tell you stories. I love so much still to tell you my stories. And I never meant for my words to change you. I never wanted my words to hurt you. I only just wanted to share with you all of my stories. I love giving you my stories. And I love most of all hearing your stories. But most of all, my favorite story is the one where we met and we lived free and wild and we had so many beautiful things. And I love to talk about the stories. How it feels like I found a small shiny rock and I get so excited that all that I want is to run over to you and show you my rock. And I never meant to hurt you. I always only loved you. I think, oh, I know that I will always love you. Because it feels like for me, like we are 4 years old and ancient together at once. But I was so bad at love and I wasn't prepared. And I fucked up so many things. But also I struggled to live outside of my stories. And it still feels like sometimes we are 4 years old. And sometimes it feels like we're best friends. And sometimes it does feel like we're much more than lovers. For me, I know it's not this way for you. And sometimes it feels like we're ancient together. It feels like we're all of those things often at once. It's this way for me anyway. This is one of my stories. It's just another story. It's like a small shiny rock for you to look at. It's not for you to take in or keep. And all that I want is to tell you my stories and to learn how to share them with you so that they don't hurt you, so that they don't change you. Because I love you exactly as you are, and I want us both to be free. But I had no idea how strong my words are, how much I did force them in you. I told you things that weren't stories at all. There were words that I said that hurt you, and that makes me sad and that makes me regret. But I'm growing and I'm learning. This isn't a plea. It isn't a rehash. This isn't anything worth saying again. It's just part of our story. All of this has been our story. If I had a wish, it would only be that I could tell you my stories every day and always without them ever hurting you, without them ever changing you. I would just say, here, my king, look at my story. And I would drop it into your hands like a small shiny rock. So excited, I feel like I'll burst. I wish to share this with you. But please, it isn't meant to change you. And I'll make sure it doesn't hurt you. It still feels like we're 4 years old and best friends sharing rocks at a stream, for me anyway. And it still feels like we're ancient and I've known you forever and all of these things all at once. But this is just my story. And I only wish I could say all the things to you that I see without them ever hurting you, without them ever changing you. Sometimes I am the hero of my stories, and sometimes you are the hero of my stories. And sometimes we adventure alongside each other. Those are my favorite stories. And sometimes we play and we fight and we love and we cry. And sometimes we took turns to comfort each other. Neither of us could bear the other's pain. And sometimes you'd ask me to change the channel, and sometimes you'd zone out or forget. But always we both took turns dropping the world to be there for the other in need. And all of this has been our story. And these are all of my stories. Well, these are some of my stories. I love so much telling you all of these things. I want to tell you how much you always remind me of who I am. I want to tell you how beautiful this has been with you despite all of the pain. And this is why I call you beautiful man. And these are all of the things I've been holding inside. And these are all of the things I've been trying to say, but this isn't meant to hurt you. And as it isn't meant to change you, it's only meant to show you. And for you to go, ooh, that's nice. But then to throw it away like a small shiny rock without taking any away into you, because it is just my story. And when you look at my stories, when you play with me, when you adventure with me, it feels like you know me. It feels like you see me. It feels like we're children again. And something about you always makes me feel like I'm me. But this is just my story. And I want to tell you stories. And I want to learn how to give you my words without them ever changing or hurting you. But most of all, I want to know your stories. I want to know what you need. I want to make this easier on you, to learn this once and for all. So there, this has been just one of my stories. My letters from now on are just my stories. And this is one that I really wanted to share with you tonight. It feels really, really good to finally conclude all of this. All right. It is this day. I think I'm going to reflect and connect with my kin. But I did want to take time out today to connect with you. Thank you for being my audience. May the kindest of words always find you.